All right. Ready for today's deep dive?
Absolutely.
We're going to be talking about document management.
Okay.
Which, I think a lot of people hear document management and they think like, oh, filing or like just keeping things organized.
Sure.
But it's really a lot more than that, isn't it?
It is. It is.
When we were looking at the research for this, one of the sources defined it as a set of procedures and tools used to capture, organize, store, retrieve, share, and control access to information.
Yeah, so it's much more
helpful.
It's much more than just, keeping your desk tidy.
Right, and it really gets to the heart of especially I think for businesses that are involved in a lot of like financial transactions or administrative tasks. There's just so much information that needs to be managed.
There is. And I think the important thing to remember is that it's not just about like the paper documents anymore. It's about all the digital information that we're generating.
Emails,
spreadsheets,
presentations,
all those sorts of things.
Right. And then this idea of security and control came up a lot in the research. Like making sure that the right people have access to the right information.
Absolutely.
But also preventing unauthorized access.
Yeah. That's critical.
And this is where, document management starts to get really interesting, I think.
Right.
Especially when you think about the role of finance and admin in all of this.
Sure. Absolutely.
Because they're dealing with so much sensitive information.
They are.
Financial statements, tax records, contracts, employee information.
Absolutely.
All that stuff is like gold to the wrong person.
It is. It is. And if you don't have good document management practices in place, you're really leaving yourself vulnerable to all sorts of risks.
So, okay, we've established that it's important.
Yes.
But I think for a lot of people, they're like, okay, but what are the actual benefits? Like, why should I care about this?
Yeah.
What's in it for me?
Sure.
And one of the things that jumped out from the research was just this idea of cost savings.
Yeah.
If you have a really efficient document management system,
right,
you can actually save money.
You can.
Because you're using less paper, you're storing less stuff.
Less storage space.
You're not spending hours trying to find that one document that you need.
Right, right.
So it can actually impact the bottom line.
It absolutely can.
Which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
But it's not just about saving money, is it?
No, not at all.
There are other benefits, too.
There are.
Like, what about efficiency and productivity?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can access information quickly,
that
frees up your time to actually do the work that needs to be done.
Absolutely. You're not wasting time searching for things.
Right.
You can respond to clients more quickly. You can make decisions more quickly. You can just get more done.
And then there's this whole issue of compliance.
Yeah.
And risk management.
Yeah.
Which I think is especially important for anyone in finance or admin.
Right.
Because you're dealing with so many regulations and legal requirements. And if you don't have a good document management system in place,
right,
you could end up in a lot of trouble.
You could.
Yeah, facing fines, lawsuits, all sorts of things.
Absolutely. And damage to your reputation, which can be really hard to recover from.
Right. So it's almost like document management is a form of insurance.
It is, yeah.
It's protecting you from those worst case scenarios.
Right.
And one of the sources actually told a story about a company.
Oh, really?
That had a tax audit.
Oh.
And they just did not have their document management in order.
Oh, no.
And it ended up costing them a lot of time and money.
Wow.
Because they couldn't produce the documents that the auditors were asking for.
So it's a real cautionary tale.
It is.
You really don't want to wait until something like that happens to get your act together.
Right.
Because it can be really painful.
So it sounds like we've established that document management is not just a nice to have.
No.
It's essential for any business.
It is.
Especially in today's world.
Especially today.
But how do we actually make this work in practice?
Right. Good. Great.
Like, where do we even start?
Yeah, that's a great question.
One thing that came up again and again in the research was the role of technology.
Right. Yeah.
These days, document management is really all about, leveraging these digital tools and systems.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people have heard of document management systems or DMS.
Right.
But they may not really understand what they are or how they work.
Yeah.
So maybe you could just give us a little overview of what a DMS actually is.
Sure. Yeah. So a document management system, it's basically software.
Okay.
That helps you manage all your documents electronically.
Okay.
So instead of having filing cabinets full of paper,
right,
you have everything stored digitally.
It's like a digital filing cabinet?
Yeah, it's like a digital filing cabinet, but it's much more than that.
Okay.
because it has all these features that help you organize your documents, search for them quickly, share them securely, and track all the changes that are made.
So it's not just about storage. It's about the whole life cycle of a document.
Exactly. It's about managing the entire life cycle of the document from the moment it's created to the moment it's archived or destroyed.
And what are some of the specific features that make these systems so valuable?
Well, one of the key features is version control.
Okay.
So you can track all the changes that are made to a document over time.
Okay.
So if you need to go back to a previous version,
okay,
you can easily do that.
That's really helpful.
It is, especially if you're working on something like a contract,
right,
where there might be multiple drafts and revisions.
And then there's security, right?
Yeah, security is huge.
Like making sure that only authorized people can access sensitive information.
Yeah, a good DMS will have all sorts of security features built in.
Okay.
Like password protection, access controls, encryption, all those sorts of things.
So it's really about protecting your information.
It is. It's about protecting your information from both internal and external threats.
So we've gone from dusty filing cabinets
to
these super-powered digital systems.
We have.
And it's amazing to see how technology is transforming the way we manage information.
It is. It's really exciting.
But I'm curious how all of this ties into the role of the CFO in the digital age.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not necessarily the ones on the front lines, right?
No, they're not, but they are ultimately responsible for the financial health of the company.
Why?
And that includes making sure that all the financial information is managed properly.
So it's part of their oversight responsibility.
It is, and one of the sources actually talked about how the role of the CFO is changing in the digital age.
Right.
They're becoming much more strategic, and they need to be really tech savvy. In order to be effective.
So it's not just about crunching numbers anymore.
No, it's not.
It's about understanding how technology can be used to improve financial processes.
Absolutely.
And make better decisions.
Yeah, and one of the key areas where technology can make a big difference is in document management.
Okay.
A good DMS can help CFOs streamline financial reporting, ensure data accuracy, and gain a much more comprehensive view of the company's financial performance.
So it's really about giving them the tools they need.
It is.
To be more effective in their roles.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From the basic definition of document management to its importance for businesses, and even its connection to the evolving role of the CFO.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic.
It is.
And there's a lot more to explore, but we'll have to save that for another time. But I think we've laid a good foundation for understanding why document management is so important in today's world.
It's more than just filing.
It is. It is.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Okay.
So we've talked about why document management is so important.
Right.
But let's get into the specifics. Like what kinds of documents should businesses be prioritizing, especially those in the finance and admin world?
Well, I think financial records are obviously at the top of the list.
Okay.
Things like invoices, receipts, bank statements, tax documents, anything that relates to the company's finances.
Makes sense.
You need to have a really solid system for managing all of that.
So it's not just about like throwing it all in a spreadsheet.
No, definitely not.
A spreadsheet can be a useful tool.
Right.
But it's not a comprehensive document management system.
Exactly.
And especially when you're dealing with financial data.
Yeah.
Accuracy and compliance are just so important.
They are, absolutely.
Because even a small error can have huge consequences.
It can.
So a good DMS can help prevent those errors by automating a lot of the processes.
Right. It can help with data entry, it can ensure consistency, and it can also provide a clear audit trail so you can see who made what changes and when.
Right. So if you ever get audited, you can prove that everything is in order.
You've got all your documentation.
All right. So we've got financial records covered.
Okay.
What other types of documents should be on the priority list?
Well, contracts are another big one.
Okay.
Vendor agreements, client contracts, employment contracts, any kind of legally binding agreement, those need to be managed very carefully.
Yeah, contracts could be tricky.
They can be, yeah.
Because if there's ever a dispute, you need to be able to prove what was agreed upon.
Absolutely.
And one of the sources mentioned that even a small discrepancy in a contract can have serious legal and financial ramifications.
It can, yeah.
So good DMS can help you track different versions of a contract, see who made what changes, and make sure that everyone is working with the most up-to-date version.
Exactly. It's all about having that control and transparency.
Okay, so we've got financial records, we've got contracts.
What else?
Well, client correspondence is another important category.
Okay.
So all those emails, letters, meeting notes, any record of communication with your clients, you need to keep track of all of that.
It's about building those relationships, right?
It is, yeah.
Like having a complete history of all your interactions with a client.
Exactly.
So you're not starting from scratch every time.
Right. A good DMS can help you quickly pull up a client's entire communication history.
Okay.
So you can see what's been discussed, what issues have come up, what requests they've made.
And it's not just about good customer service.
Right.
It's also about efficiency.
It is.
If you can quickly find the information you need, you can respond to clients more quickly.
Exactly.
Which can make a big difference in terms of client satisfaction.
It can, absolutely. Okay, so we've covered financial records, contracts, client correspondence.
Okay.
What about employee records?
Yes, employee records are also very important.
Those seem pretty sensitive.
They are, yeah.
Like you've got employment contracts, performance reviews, salary information, all sorts of things.
Absolutely. And you need to make sure that all of that information is kept confidential and secure.
And there are probably a lot of legal requirements around that, right?
There are, yeah. There are regulations about how long you need to retain certain types of employee records.
Okay.
And a good DMS can help you comply with all of those regulations.
By automating the retention and destruction policies.
Exactly, so you don't have to worry about it.
So it's not just about organization, it's about protecting the company from risk.
It is, yeah. It's about managing risk and ensuring compliance.
Okay, so we've talked about the types of documents that are important.
Right.
But what about the legal and regulatory landscape?
Okay.
Like, what are some of the things that businesses need to be aware of?
Well, one of the big things is data privacy.
Right.
With all these new regulations like GDPR, businesses have a legal obligation to protect personal information.
And that's not just customer data, right?
No, it's any kind of personal information.
So employee data, financial data, even intellectual property.
All of that needs to be protected.
And the penalties for non-compliance can be pretty steep.
They can be, yeah.
So it's not something you want to take lightly.
Definitely not.
So how can businesses make sure they're meeting all these requirements?
Well, technology can play a big role here.
Okay.
A good DMS can help you establish clear security protocols, control access to sensitive documents, and even automate data retention and destruction policies.
So it's about having a system in place that helps you manage all of that.
Exactly.
And one of the things that we talked about earlier was the audit trail.
Right.
Like being able to track who accessed what document and when.
That's crucial for compliance.
Yeah, because if you ever get audited, you can prove that you've been following the rules.
You've got all the evidence you need.
So it's like having a digital paper trail.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
That protects you from all sorts of problems.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about the what and the why of document management.
Right.
And we've touched on some of the legal and regulatory considerations. But for those listening who are thinking, okay, this all sounds great.
Yeah.
But where do I even start?
Sure.
What are some practical steps that they can take?
Well, one of the sources outlined a really helpful 5-step process for getting started with document management.
Let's hear it.
So the first step is to assess your current situation.
Okay.
Take a look at your existing practices.
Or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof, exactly.
And identify any areas where you could be doing better.
Right. So ask yourself some questions like, what kinds of documents are we currently generating? Where are they stored? Who has access to them? Are we having any problems with retrieval or security?
Right.
Once you have a good understanding of your current situation, then you can move on to step 2.
Okay, what's step 2?
Define your goals. Define your goals. What do you want to achieve with better document management? Is it reducing costs or boosting efficiency, tightening security, ensuring compliance? It could be all of the above.
Yeah, it's kind of like setting your sights on where you want to go.
Exactly. And once you know where you're headed, you can figure out how to get there. And that brings us to step 3, choosing the right tools for the job.
Okay, so now we're talking about those document management systems.
Yes, the DMS, and there are so many different options out there.
That's right. How do you even begin to choose?
Well, it really depends on your specific needs and your budget.
Makes sense.
There are simple cloud-based solutions that are great for small businesses. And then there are more complex enterprise-level systems for larger organizations.
Right. It's like finding the right size shoe. You wouldn't wear hiking boots to a wedding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about finding the right fit. So do your research, compare different options, and choose a system that aligns with your goals and how you work.
Absolutely. And don't forget about step 4, implementation.
Oh, right. It's not just about buying the software.
No, you need to actually put it into practice.
So how do you do that?
Well, you need to develop clear policies and procedures for how documents will be handled.
Oh, okay. So like a roadmap for how documents flow through the system.
Exactly. And you also need to train your staff.
Right? Because even the best system in the world won't work if people don't know how to use it.
Absolutely. Everyone needs to be on board and understand the new processes.
Makes sense.
And finally, step 5, ongoing review and improvement.
Oh, so it's not a one-time thing.
No, document management is an ongoing process.
You need to keep evaluating and making adjustments as needed.
Exactly. Stay agile, stay adaptable, and keep looking for ways to improve.
You know, one thing that really stood out to me from the research
What's that?
is that even small steps can make a big difference.
You don't have to do everything at once.
Start with 1 or 2 areas where you can improve and go from there.
That's a great approach, progress over perfection.
Well, listeners, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into document management.
We have.
We've talked about why it's so important.
The risks of neglecting it.
And some practical steps you can take to improve your own practices.
Hopefully you found it helpful.
But before we wrap up, we want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
Think about the one document in your business that would be most disastrous to lose. How secure is it right now?
That's a great question to ponder.
Because losing certain documents could have serious consequences.
It could disrupt your business, lead to legal problems, even put your financial stability at risk.
So if this deep dive has sparked some ideas, we encourage you to explore the world of document management systems.
See what's out there.
Consider your needs and find a solution that can help you achieve that peace of mind.
Knowing that your vital information is safe, secure, and always accessible.
And as always, this is just the beginning of the exploration. We'll be doing future deep dives into related topics like cybersecurity, specific DMS software options, and even the ethical considerations around data management in the digital age.
So much to learn.
So stay tuned, keep learning, and keep those documents organized.
Great advice.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.